there's some badass, hardworking people on that set, and it made it just, like I said, such a different experience,
Hmm.
but so much fun.
To kick it off, we'll start with the easy stuff. So, kind of just tell us a little bit about yourself. What kind of catapulted you into the world of acting?
My name is Alissa Filoramo. I have been acting since about, well, I could say my whole life because I feel like I've always been I don't say a drama queen, but I've always been interested in acting. I actually wrote, starred, and directed in a play in third grade about Helen Keller. So, so I've been kind of dabbling and expressing myself as an actor since I was a little girl. But my first film was in 2017, and I always knew I would end up in the industry. However, I did go to school for design in San Diego and spent some time doing that. But I just had this itch to be in LA and to just go after it. And I did one day. And it's like overnight, I kind of woke up and I was like, oh, I'm doing it. I'm an actor. I'm a
Oh,
working actor. So here I am.
that's amazing. I know in such a short time, though. I mean, you've obviously starred in several Lifetime, style thrillers, other long form projects, in different genres, than obviously the vertical space. So, like, how did kind of going through all of these different kind of iterations of the mediums, how did that change from your perspective of like, okay, doing TV movies and then now you're in vertical shorts? How did your mindset kind of shift?
It's crazy. I think I chose to be an actor at one of the most difficult times in the industry.
Hmm.
Although now with verticals, I think the industry has just done a complete 180 in a good way. Um, However, I think there's still a lot less horizontals. So I started off, yes, I've done a lot of Lifetime, I've done a lot of independent films, and then, it was kind of like, I don't say tragedy after tragedy, but it was COVID and then the
Hmm.
strikes, and productions were just going elsewhere, to Atlanta, to Vancouver, because of all these tax breaks. So I feel like the work just kind of dried up in LA for a while.
Hmm.
And then these verticals happened kind of overnight. They came from China, and the industry has just been booming. I think my manager told me, this was maybe like 6 months ago, that 60% of all production in LA was vertical shorts, which is a lot.
Yeah.
And so, I said no for a while because the first time I researched what is a vertical short and I looked up an example, I was like, I'm not gonna lie, it was a little cringe.
Spicy.
It was a little low budget, but
Yeah.
there's such a range because there's so many verticals out there. And so I said no to verticals for a while until I came across a script. Back then it was called Our Session Starts Now. It's now called The Billionaire Sex Addict and His Therapist.
Hmm.
And that was the first vertical I did with Kate and Chrissy, who also wrote and directed My Sexy Mentor Seduced Me. And I'll be honest, I kept going back and forth between, I had like 10 auditions that week. And I was like, wait, no, this is not a vertical. This can't be a vertical. Like this is too good.
Hmm.
And and I was, yeah, pleasantly surprised. It was really good writing, and I really connected to the story. So I said yes. And since then it's been so much fun, and I have worked on wonderful productions where everyone on set is overqualified. Everyone is so good at what they do. So it kind of, I had to learn, on the job, that there's nothing less than. Verticals kind of have a stigma against them because they can be campy, or they can be salacious and
Hmm.
spicy.
Hmm.
But everyone I've worked with has been so incredibly talented at what they do, and everybody has been so passionate. So after that first experience, I was like, okay, I'm in. I've been bitten by the bug. And on top of that, the fans have been so incredible, and that has made me want to keep doing more because I've had more fans reach out to me from my first vertical, than I ever did from Lifetime films. So,
Hmm.
so it's a really fun, exciting thing to be a part of. It's kind of like the Wild West right now. So here I am. I'm a vertical actor.
Yeah. And I mean, I definitely think there was that stigma around this like web content or short form. And, obviously you were hesitant for a while. And I kind of did go through the vortex of verticals, obviously, because I was getting all of the ads for them. So clearly they're doing their job in terms of putting it on Instagram and Facebook and all that good stuff. But I definitely think that that stigma is lifting because, especially with your projects with those writers, you can see the difference between some of the other ones that I've kind of been just watching just for fun, just to see, okay, let me see if this is like similar writing. Do they have similar like story plots? Like what's going on? So I think it's great that you kind of held out and then now you're like in that position where you're doing better content in terms of the vertical space.
Yeah, and it's like anything. There's varying levels of projects and budgets, and you can tell when something is really written with intent, and you can tell when something is written just because it's worked for another platform and they wanted to recreate it. And so um so yeah, I've been able to be choosy about what I accept, and it's been nice. It's hard to say no to work, but it's also been nice to be like, no, you know what? This wasn't as good as my last, so I'm gonna hold out. And so yeah,
It's
it's been
great
a
that
good
you're able
experience.
to curate your content. Because, some people don't do that. So I admire you for that. And obviously, my Sexy Mentor Seduce Me has exploded. I think it's got over 24 million views and growing. So obviously, when you were filming that, did you have like any indication from kind of your past projects that this character was going to be such like a viral sensation?
No, I mean it was the first lesbian sapphic love story that I'd ever done. And so the only reason I said yes because I had worked with Kate and Chrissy before, and the writing was it was done so well.
Yeah.
And you never know what to expect. You never know how something's going to turn out after it's edited, after, the platform gets a hold of it and does their own version of their advertising. You never really know what the final project is going to look like.
Hmm.
So I think it came out so well. I got emotional when I was watching it, even in scenes that I wasn't emotional in when I was acting. So I feel like if it touched me, it was all new to me. I can only imagine the people who it's touched, and I have received so much love and support from the fans and and the network. And so I was not expecting it. And the fact that, I mean, 24 million, that's a lot. I had no idea.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's very exciting.
That's crazy. I think it's probably the top watched on drama shorts, which is insanity. And this was your first LGBT role that you finally said yes to?
Correct.
Okay. And obviously in the short form space, queer story, I mean anywhere in any in any media these days, queer stories often get overlooked or they're portrayed inauthentically. And obviously the writers and who was kind of at the helm had a play in that. But did you think that that's what stood out for the project of you coming onto it, that it was more female driven and that it was authentic coming from queer people?
Absolutely. And you nailed it. It came from, one of the writers who is queer herself.
Hmm.
So I trusted that it there was intention behind it. And even with, these light BDSM elements, everything felt like there was intention behind it. So that is why I felt comfortable saying yes and doing it. And then in addition, everyone on set, well, I would say the lead in almost every department was either all female or non-binary. So the energy of the set was like a sisterhood. It felt very inviting and relaxed, and I'd never experienced that before. So it was such a wonderful experience. And I'm like, we need more of these all-female sets because there's some badass, hardworking people on that set, and it made it just, like I said, such a different experience,
Hmm.
but so much fun.
Well, hopefully there's more. We'll put it out into the universe.
Yes.
And was there like an extra layer of like a responsibility to get it right, knowing like how kind of protective the queer community is in terms of like authentic representation or just the lack of any type of, queer people seeing themselves, in these spaces?
Absolutely. With anything I do, I wanna bring it justice. I don't want to do something that's, just checking a box for the network. And so I have turned down other LGBT roles just because, with all due respect, you can tell they're written by a man, a straight
Mm.
man. And
Hmm.
I was like, "Ugh, this just doesn't feel right. This
Yeah.
doesn't feel right." And then, as soon as you say no, someone's like, "Oh, well, we'll increase your day rate." And I'm like, it's not about that, it's about if anything I do, and like I said, I'm fortunate to be in a place in my career where I've learned to say no. Like it's okay to say no, and I want to do work that I'm proud of because I did enough stuff earlier in my career that, I might have said no to now, but like I said, I'd worked with these women before, so I felt like I was in good hands, and I just I want to connect with people in a real way.
The thing I loved the most about this particular story was that it was a story with purpose, right? So we obviously have these BDSM moments and these spicier moments and these power dynamics and kind of all the, recipe you see in terms of these shorts. But at the heart of it, there is this real love story, and we get to kind of see that unfold, over the hour or so. So what was kind of your favorite moment of Birdie kind of breaking down her walls and actually allowing Vera to see her like true self and her aspirations?
Oh gosh, I feel like, there's a lot of resistance from Birdie throughout the story because she doesn't want to lose her career. She doesn't want to lose her husband. There's so many things that were her everything for so long that she's afraid of losing the only thing she ever knew, even if it wasn't really the best thing for her. So
Hmm.
there's a lot of resistance, but there's a moment where I don't know if this is going to be a spoiler for anyone who hasn't seen it, but
Hmm.
there's a moment, there are several heated moments where Birdie and Vera become very close to kissing. And it's almost like after the third or fourth time, you're like, all right, are you going to kiss already? At least as a viewer.
Yeah.
And I think, once there finally is that moment of connection, there's so much payoff because there's been so much tension that has been building. And so when Birdie finally does let her guard down and let Vera in, it's it's a really sweet moment. And it was fun to watch. And it was also fun to remember that I think it was like one of the first scenes we shot together.
What?
So that's always interesting to, take these super intimate moments and they just end up being earlier in the shoot schedule based on, where we're filming.
Yeah,
But but yeah, it was really fun to watch and so easy to connect
that's
with
awesome.
my co-star.
And obviously, I just interviewed Eloise last week, and all the fans agree that you two obviously have an electric dynamic on screen. Was there a specific like line or like a look during that chemistry read where you both just stopped and like realized that it clicked and that like you two were meant to be in this story?
I was brought on early on, and Chrissy and Kate did allow me to be a part of the chemistry read. And so it was me and four other actresses who were going up for the role of Vera. And I think Eloise was the first actress. It was a Zoom read.
Yeah.
And I'd say 3 seconds into her performance, I was like, she's it. She's it. I could tell just her personality, the character needed to have this moment or this balance of um, vulnerability, but also this toughness where she's willing to fight back and stand up for herself. And she just brought it. She brought it as an actress in the audition, but I could just tell based on her personality, she was it. And the other three actresses were wonderful, but I was just like, I could have told you 30 seconds in, like this is the girl.
she mentioned that she'd want a continuation. She's super down. She has ideas of where these characters go. Whether or not that happens, obviously remains to be seen. But she definitely wanted the continuation, if it ever happened, to center around Birdie and kind of who she is without kind of the stronghold of her husband and just the pressures of the industry judging her for who she loves. So kind of my question to you is, if Birdie's story did continue, what's one trait of hers that you hope stays the same and one thing you want to see her evolve out of?
Well, I'll start with one thing I want her to evolve out of, which is, it's a tough thing to, I hate to say to be a control freak, but to to kind of be too attached to certain things. And I would want Birdie to continue to find courage to go after the unknown, to
Mhm.
surrender, to take risks, to follow her heart. So I guess I would want her to continue to be courageous and go after things, even if they, you know, people may not approve. But if she's following her gut, her intuition, and her heart, I want her to continue to do that. And like I said, to evolve from, the restriction she puts on herself. I think just on a personal level, when you heal from something in life, it doesn't happen overnight. So I think she still might have some work to do when it comes to being maybe a little too rigid and uptight. And I want to see her surrender and really truly flow into life.
And you kind of see that towards the end of her like aspirations, wanting to write, wanting to direct, wanting to star in her own work. So hopefully we'll put it out into the world, and if we keep watching, hopefully they'll make another one. And obviously, as somebody with producing credits, do you find yourself producing while you're acting? Like, is there a moment where you have to like switch something off so you're not seeing it as a producer and seeing it as an actor?
Not necessarily. I mean, I'll be honest, I've worked with actors who also produce, and you can tell they're in the like, why don't we do it this way or do it that way? And I'm always cautious to be, a team player and to not tell people what to do
Hmm.
unless it's constructive. I mean, the sets I've worked on are always very constructive. So, I think directors and, crew, they're always open to suggestions. So I try to not give too much feedback, but when I'm there to act, I'm there to act. I feel like producing is a whole nother ball game, at least the production side of things that I've done. So I try to just stay in my lane, so to speak. And there's so much going on as an actor when you're working, 12-hour days and you're in every single scene and you have 10 outfit changes. It's like I don't have the energy to be a producer.
You obviously mentioned your other short on Drama Shorts. It went through a couple name iterations, but basically, Billionaire Bad Boy is a patient. You're the therapist. Obviously, the power dynamics is completely opposite of the dynamics with Birdie and Vera. What was kind of the biggest difference or shocking similarity between Madison and Birdie that you found?
I'd say with a lot of my characters, they tend to be these how shall I say this? Maybe emotionally repressed women who are in relationships that are, I guess, one-sided. They're not really fulfilling. So
Mhm.
they definitely, I'd say Madison and Birdie definitely had that in common, where they were in relationships with men who didn't really see them, or see them for who they are. They also weren't the most loyal. And so both characters were seeking love and empowerment outside the relationship. So, they definitely had that in common.
We have some classic tropes going on in all these stories that you're in. How do you kind of work to make your character feel real? You're kind of like a real person with agency rather than just a plot point in this like forbidden romance.
So I'd say with all of my work, if not most of my work, I have to connect to it to do a good job in the audition and to make it real on set. So there's always a little bit of something in the character that I can connect to, whether it's literal, or it's like, okay, well, I can connect to that experience in not being in the best relationship or not feeling seen or desired, or, you know, desperately seeking, a rewarding career. So there's always something I can connect to on a human level, even if the story is a little fun or outrageous.
And now, what is kind of the most surprising or touching message that you've received from a fan, who found you through any of your work?
Yeah, I do receive a lot. I will say prior to prior to my sexy mentor seduce me, I hadn't had a whole lot of female fans reaching out to me, but
Hmm.
since that project, I've had more women reaching out to me, expressing their love for me, which has been, I'm flattered. More of a it's been a new experience.
Hmm.
But in terms of something that's, touching on a personal level, I've had a lot of people reach out from my sexy mentor seduce me and just talk about, how that story gave them courage to be who they really are. And I had one fan in particular say that he wished he had the courage that Birdie had when he was younger, and it really inspired him to just be who he is, his authentic self. And I love hearing stuff like that, So um it 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 makes me feel like what I'm doing, even though sometimes the stories can be silly, it really makes it feel like it's making a difference. It's connecting with people, and that's the goal of every actor is to do a good job to where people connect on a human level.
I think it's really nice that the fans can actually connect in real time because we didn't always have that back in the day when we're sitting at the TV every Tuesday at 8 p.m. So it's very instantaneous. So do you ever get overwhelmed by the fact that, okay, like if we're sitting here watching a Lifetime movie, we're, on our cable shows and then there wasn't social media at certain points, but do you feel like it's too much access or are you kind of just riding the wave with every all these comments coming in?
I only feel like it's too much access if sometimes I can't keep up with the messages.
Yeah, of course.
But, you know, like I said, I've received nothing but love and positivity from these projects. So I'm blessed to not really have any haters on my page or in my
Uh,
DMs. So that feels good, and sometimes I'll be overwhelmed with checking messages or doing 1,000 things, and I'll go and I'll check it, and I'll realize that every single person who took the time to reach out to say something to me matters. And it's, I have a duty to take the time and respond and not, um, because I think we can go on social media and read through messages and want to like get on, get off, but I've realized now like set aside the time to sit down and respond to people because without the people, without the fans, I probably wouldn't keep getting more work. So I'm grateful for all of the love and I'm grateful to connect with people and um there's maybe only a couple times where people slid into my DMs and I was like, okay, well,
Probably even more
we need
so
some
now.
boundaries. Yeah, we need some boundaries. We need some
Yes.
boundaries, just on a human level.
Yes, I think there could be a healthy balance of being able to respond and, appreciate the admiration, but also be like, hey, this is not the time to do whatever that was. See, if you were producing a project specifically for yourself right now, what's one genre or like your dream role that you're dying to tackle that you haven't like been able to do yet?
So, dream project, what is one of my dream projects? I feel like I've had so many people say, "Oh, you should start writing. You should write your own stories." And I think about it and I get very excited because I feel like I have so many stories to tell and so many things I'd love to say. But then I think of the commitment it takes to become a writer. And I've seen other actor friends who have shifted into writing. And I think, who has the time? But I mean, I have a lot of stories, I think, from my childhood and stories that I would love to share with people about just self-love and empowerment and on a very real level, I've dealt with eating disorders when I was much younger, and I feel like that really, really affected my adolescence. And I feel like I wasted so much time trying to change who I was or to be perfect or to be something else. And I feel like there's a message there that would resonate with people. And, I think when we share our struggles and when we share what we've been through, it inspires people. It helps them learn and grow and change and find the healing that I might have needed back then in my life. So I'm not sure what the dream role is yet, but I do think there are a lot of stories left to tell for me.
Definitely a work in progress. And obviously, where you are now, what kind of would be advice that you would give your younger self that was going through these tough things?
Advice I would give myself. I mean, first of all, is, uh, you're perfect the way you are. There is nothing you need to change. Um, and we waste so much of our lives thinking about the past or living in the future, and the present moment is all we have, and it's all we ever will have. And I just wasted so much time thinking about this future version of me that never came because the future never comes. It's only the present moment. And I'm getting
Hmm.
very spiritual with you, but
That's okay.
um, I just think self-love, I know it sounds cheesy and it's become this word that people overuse, but it's a real thing. And I think everything in life starts with self-love, and you can't love another. You can't pursue your dreams. You can't be your best self unless you find love for yourself. And I want people to find it in themselves, because we all have something incredible and unique to bring to this world.
And in terms of unique, I like to ask a pretty unique question in my interviews. I have asked this since I was 16 years old in all the interviews that I've done. So it's been 21 years, so it's been a hot minute. So it basically kind of touches upon your personality, kind of inward think thoughts and how you perceive yourself. So if you're ready, I'm gonna shoot it out at you.
Sure.
So, if you were to construct a donut based off of your personality in real life, what kind of donut would it be, and what toppings would be on it?
I mean, immediately my mind went to salted caramel. So
Mm.
a little salty,
Mm-hmm.
a little sweet.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like there need to be a little spice in there too. So maybe some like chili, some like
Mm.
salted caramel chili, sweet,
Ooh.
spicy, salty, all the things.
All of the above.
Yes.
But yeah, and obviously you are going to continue to get feedback and praise, I'm assuming, for all the things you do. Since I didn't really get to ask you if there was a continuation of My Sexy Mentor Seduce Me, what would you envision for that story?
I've had lots of fans request that, and I feel like it's got to happen.
Yeah, what do we have to do here?
What would I want for that story for the continuation of My Sexy Mentor Seduced Me?
Hmm.
Well, I obviously want Vera and Birdie to find love, to live their love story on their own terms. I would want to see Birdie continuing to pursue her writing and directing career and, living life on her own terms. And I'm not sure what the challenge would be, but
There
I,
had to
I
be
do,
something
yeah, there's got to be something. We
to
can
shake
work
it
on
up.
that. Yeah.
But yeah, definitely. And obviously, if there's anything else you want to add, now is the time, the platform, if you have anything else you would like to discuss. But if not, then I think we'll start wrapping up.
I'm super grateful for the fans. Like I said, I'm super grateful to have been a part of the productions I have over the past year. Like I said, they've really opened my eyes to just the love and support, from the fans out there. So thank you for taking the time to interview me.
Well,
You've been wonderful.
of course. And then, yeah, hopefully we'll be chatting about new projects and maybe a part two. We're going to put it out in the universe so that
Yeah.
we can make it happen. Who do we have to talk
Yes.
to?
I know people.
You know, right? I say, you know, I don't know people, but I will keep talking about it. So hopefully that helps.
Thank you, Mackenzie.
Of course.
Bye bye.
Bye.